Trust. Hard to get, easy to lose. The question is, why do certain organizations have people who really trust their leaders while other organizations struggle to get any credibility and any trust from the people who work for them? And of course, we know organizations who lost pretty much any reasonable person's trust in the recent past. Talking about the UEFA advertising with rainbow colors, while not want any rainbow colors around during the football games, because they now see that future tournaments take place in non-democratic countries, so they throw themselves in the dust towards these despots. Of course, we had other situations where the UEFA didn't act great as well. They put the German referee Felix Brüch on the game of England against the Ukraine. I mean, Germany just lost against England, so maybe not the best pick. Felix Brüch did a great job, but you could prevent this situation by just picking someone else. St. Petersburg is kept as a place where games took place, although the Delta variant is ravaging. And talking about the Delta variant, the Wembley Stadium will be back to 60,000 capacity in the UK for future games. What could possibly go wrong? However, when we now look into science about trust, many companies are now calling their people back into the offices, and this doesn't go down too well. If we look into trust from a scientific point of view, many people often talk about trust in the media. And yes, trust in the media is not doing well. But the question is, and I received emails about this, people ask me, are there any reliable studies about that? And yes, there are. So there is the Reuters Institute Digital News Report, where in January and February 2021, more than 2,000 people were asked, do they trust the media? And the highest level of trust, which is already pretty low, is in Finland, 65%, which means 1/3 is not trusting the media. And from there, it goes straight down. Germany, the country I am born in, I was born in, just half of the people trust the media. When we go to India, Spain, or the UK, we actually go down to 1/3 of the people trusting the media. France already has less than 1/3, and the UK dropping even below 30%. With a really low 29%. Still, and here you see how complex the issue of trust is, you can see that people trust other media outlets and other places where they put their information. So based on a survey of more than 5,000 people aged 18 to 64, which means no matter in which organizations you work, your clients are on these platforms I'm going to mention now. The Statista Global Consumer Survey showed that at the moment, 73%, which means 3/4 of all your clients, are active, regularly active on Facebook. 2/3 on YouTube. When you look on Twitter, we're about 1/3. And when you look on LinkedIn, it's only 20%, which is still a lot, of course, when you see the amount of people registered there. However, when you see that Facebook, Instagram, by the way, is half of the business people there, half of the people there. So you see people trust these platforms in many ways more than other outlets. Probably they have more control here. And by the way, trust into science, of course, because people ask me about that as well, if there's any scientific data about the England against Germany thing. I don't want to talk too much about football, just 30 seconds. Yes, there is. When you look at the data, and the data is from FIFA and UEFA, it's publicly available, the media stirred up this myth of England never wins against Germany just because in big tournaments they didn't win. However, looking at the data, England had a clear advantage when you look at the numbers. So when you look into science, you have less bad surprises. So first, of course, congratulations England for winning against Germany. Well played, and you won against Ukraine as well. Very strong team, playing way better than Germany. So a very well-deserved win. However, looking at all matches, before Germany played against England, England won 16 times, Germany won 15 times, 5 games were a draw. So now it's 17 wins, so even more advantage. It gets even more clear when you look at the goals. 78 goals England scored against Germany, only 55 scored from Germans against the English team. When you look in the FIFA World Ranking, England is 4th, Germany is 12th. So when you look into science, you realize you will have less bad experiences and less bad surprises. However, it comes to the point, and that is a major reason, a main reason why people lose trust in their leaders, that science has become a selective tool for certain leaders. I just give you an example. Just recently, a study was conducted in Iceland about the 4-day working week. So people worked 4 days a week, 35 hours per week. And of course, the question is this a viable option? And the result, and the numbers are very strong and really unambiguously clear, it's exactly the same productivity. It's exactly the same productivity, while at the same time, the well-being of the people, mental health, is way better than it was before. And just last week, we talked about the impact of mental health issues on the economy, depending on the country you're in. 3.5 to 5% of your GDP is gone due to mental health issues. So you see, you could work 4 days a week. You could have the same productivity, better well-being, which means higher profits after all, and immediately certain leaders jumped at that and said, well, it doesn't fit to our organization, I don't think this can be the case. Or they come up with when I was young, I had to work 7 days a week, 18 hours a day, which is not relevant at all in today's times. I mean, congratulations for making it through that time, must be horrible back in these days. However, when you suddenly make science an option, but not the guideline, you shouldn't be surprised that things go wrong. And I, of course, have to admit my own personal bias here. We have an election year in Germany, so I'm with the Liberal Party in Germany, which is the pro-economy, less regulation, low taxation, small state party, all to a reasonable amount. So I'm a moderate liberal conservative person. However, we now see that even the United States are leading a campaign for minimum taxation globally and getting more regulations in. We cannot start to ignore science and then wonder why people lose trust in leaders. Because when leaders act arbitrarily and they only cherry pick scientific data, people will find it out immediately because people are able to use Google. And some companies already started to learn, although some of them, of course, have to show if they deliver on their promises. So the Amazon CEO, Jeff Bezos, is about to leave, and Amazon now put up 14 new leadership rules. And the 14 new leadership rules, the first two already show that they don't openly admit it, but they admit that some things were not going too well. Rule number 1, strive to be the Earth's best employer. Well, that pretty much says that they think they weren't in the past, and we know there were issues. And the second one is success and scale bring broad responsibility. That, of course, leaves a lot of room for interpretation, but you see there seems to be a shift in the paradigm of how they want to run their business. Of course, they also see that the tables have turned, and especially when Joe Biden brings forward a more regulation, higher taxation ideology and political agenda into the business landscape we have to see as employers, as business people, that we cannot have a go, and we should never have had a go at people based on our personal opinion rather than based on science. And of course, now we have to look at what the problem really is and how to do better. So first, I want to bring in a quote from Professor Landfried from the University of Hamburg. She's specializing in politics and public policy, and she's doing so for decades. And she's known for one very famous phrase: not everything that's legal is also legitimate. I just give you an example. You can, of course, in certain countries, fire people on the spot. You can, of course, even after years, not offer them any compensation, and you can, of course, not pay anyone a single penny without having a massive lawsuit against you. That's all legal. The state and the regulation and the laws give you the right to do so. However, it is not legitimate, especially with long-standing, well-deserved, good employees. However, when you go down the route of it's legal, so I do it, you shouldn't be surprised that you receive very negative reviews publicly available and really considered by talented people, that when you act in a way which is not legitimate, that you face the consequences from it. So you don't really save money because you have to reinvest the whole money for marketing, employer branding, recruiting, etc. The second part of the problem is that scientific facts are reliable and valid, and you don't have to like them so they're correct. I just give you an example. When I presented this study of the 4-hour working week to a group of senior leaders, and first I have to say, About half of them agreed that this is a viable option. The other half, not so much, and 1/3 especially was really having a go against it based on personal opinion. One person even saying, so I showed them the numbers and the studies and the result, and the conclusion very clearly is that this is a viable option. And then someone says, well, I have a different opinion. You can have any opinion you want, but your opinion doesn't make it a fact. When you have a different opinion, it does not make it a science-backed, reliable and valid fact. But some leaders pretend that it is. So they look at science, when they like it, they take it and they use it for their personal agenda. When they don't like it, they either twist it, they ignore it, or they say, I have a different opinion, and go by their own opinion. And that is called arbitrariness. Arbitrary behavior leads always to a loss of trust with anyone, because they now think they can never be on the safe side with you. And when you then try to push forward toxic stereotypes of, oh, careers can only happen when you work 6 days a week, 12 hours per day or even more, and when I was young I did yada yada yada. Look, I grew my own business, I've been there, I've done that, and I still work a lot. And you know why I work a lot? Because I like my job. I love my job. I'm self-employed, and that's why I have no issues getting up early, working long hours, or getting up later and then working through all night, different time zones, whatever else. I love it, but that's my personal choice. Stop copying yourself onto other people, because that's an invasion of their privacy and also their personal lives. The problem now is, how can these leaders be helped? How can you help your organization? And of course, I'm happy to help you there. There are different training options. Of course, coaching, consulting, mentoring is available. Of course, I can speak about that at your event. Happy to do that and deliver a keynote. And of course, for a bit more of a long-term approach, we can have a project and interim management project together. By the way, if you prefer to read articles, and of course I have articles about different aspects of running a business properly and sustainable leadership, just go on expert.nb-networks.com and just put in your email address there. Once per week you get all the free resources, of course 100% content, ad-free guarantee every Wednesday. So of course now we have to look at how to do better. So step 1, you have to investigate what is your opportunity for business model innovation? And some of you saw that, and thank you very much for the really nice messages I received on LinkedIn and Facebook, etc., etc. I just successfully completed the course at HEC Paris, one of the best business schools we have in Europe, about business model innovation. Business model innovation is a new approach how to innovate your business model, which goes far beyond and is a way more modern approach than the very well-known and meanwhile a bit outdated business model canvas. So look at your business model innovation. However, when you see, and by the way, if you think your business model cannot be innovated at all, I wish you all the best for the future, because your business model won't survive the next 20 years most likely, except you're in an industry of very low margins where no one wants to enter. Look at which options you have for true business model innovation. And then step 2, here's the important part, because often business model innovation comes to the conclusion and says, well, people have to work for less salary. Well, that's maybe a wish, but when you lower the salaries, different people show up, and you most likely do not want to work with the people who then show up there, because they don't offer the talent you need to provide the services to the clients you have. So after looking into business model innovation, how to truly innovate your business model, step 2 is you have to derive very specific steps on strategic, tactical, and operative level, which means senior leadership has to take a toll as well. They have to have their share of the innovation as well. Then showing to the tactical levels, to the leaders there, what is the new plan they have. And of course, you should talk to them before and include all levels of the organization, because then after the tactical level, you have to put it on the operational level where people do the daily business. Only when you include all 3 levels of the business, you have a chance to succeed with your approach. If you don't do so, the approach will fail, or you will have one of these pseudo implementations where people say, oh yeah, we do it the new way now, and they just don't. They just pretend they do, but they don't. Also, and that is step 3 of how to do it better, stop really stop to lie with your marketing. Especially young people and talented people immediately see through your campaigns because it's publicly available. When you say we care about the people and we offer job flexibility, people can find out within a couple of minutes or at least a couple of hours if this flexibility is offered, if it is truly flexible, what your reputation on the market as an employer is, etc., etc. And as soon as you put wrong marketing out there, people will get back to you with an answer which is, I don't want to work for you. And I just give you an example from my personal circle of friends and acquaintances. So when I look at only my circle of friends, 7 people who were promised to have flexibility at work then faced the situation where they said, well, flexibility means only sometimes and the leaders decide when you can work from home and it's not really flexible. Basically, they said, you better come back to the office. 7 people who immediately applied for new jobs. 5 of them found a new job, including the flexibility they want, within 4 weeks or less. And by the way, for better conditions, more flexibility and higher salary. 2 are still looking, although I assume from where they are right now, they will find a job within the next, 14 days, not more than 3 weeks. Because, talent is still short on the market. However, when you now try to think of, what is my reaction? 5 people, I just told you about 5 people who have new jobs. 1 organization admitted their wrongdoing and said, oh, we see you leave because we promised something and we didn't deliver, which is at least a starting point to maybe cooperate in the future in some time, not now, but in the future. 4 organizations were really insulted by someone quitting on their job. How can you dare to quit right now? We went through the pandemic. What do you think? We invested in you. We gave you a salary raise 5 years ago. These were phrases that were uttered towards people who are highly talented and highly skilled. And of course, what happened was that these organizations now on Glassdoor.com, on different other platforms, face very negative reviews about their behavior. It's not the employee's fault, it's the leader's fault who do that. When you ignore signs, when you act arbitrarily, and when you then put straightforward lies out there about what you promise and then you do not live up to your promise, then you shouldn't be surprised that people leave. You shouldn't be surprised that people don't trust you anymore, because people immediately realize when everything you said was not aligning with reality. So very important here, because I know that this can get quite emotional. Keep all the comments respectful, please. If you like the podcast, I'm very happy if you leave me a 5-star evaluation on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to this right now. Also, and this is the option many people prefer, feel free to send me an email, nb@nb-networks.com. The email goes straight to my inbox. No one else reads it, and full confidentiality, of course, is guaranteed. And again, of course, I have to say, we have amazing podcasts with interviews this week. So we have Dr. Ashok Yansari from the Goldsmith University of London. Really a podcast you have to listen to, because he is the one who talks about the importance of sleep. And it's an excellent example of what we think is scientifically proven and what is actually scientifically proven. So listen to that and then think about how often you thought wrong, or how often you were wrong and you still act in the wrong way, although you know it better. Just what I said before. The perception of science, the perception of science for leaders became very selective. So people only pick the aspect of science they like. And also, if you speak German, by the way, we have the Bundesliga, which is the highest professional league in Germany. We have the Bundesliga referee Patrick Ittrich interviewed on the German podcast, so feel free to listen to that as well, because he also talks about trust, leadership, how to make decisions, and how to handle errors during your work. On the English podcast, as I said, Dr. Ashok Yansari from the Department of Psychology, Goldsmith University of London. Very important right now. If you now think you've done something wrong in your organization, it's never too late to change. So look at the notes you might have taken right now. And now it's important to implement these steps in your organization. I'm happy to help you. Just drop me a line and we get into contact so we can chat about any future steps. And now there's only one thing for me left to say. Thank you very much for your time.